The COVID pandemic changed everything for people wanting to rent, buy, or sell a house or an apartment. Prices went up, housing stock went down, and hundreds of Oklahomans found themselves struggling to afford a place to live. Post-pandemic, things are about to change dramatically again. That's the topic of this week's in-depth conversation with moderator Susan Cadeau and her panel of guests.
We have guests who have all the information we need to know on this topic. Let me introduce them to you now. We have Barry Whittington, who is the managing broker with RE/MAX First. We have Valenthia Dooland, who is the Oklahoma Housing Finance Agency Director of Home Ownership Programs. And we have Jenny Bass-Carl, who is the Community Cares Partners Executive Director. Thanks to all three of you for being with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Well, let's jump right in, Barry. We're going to start off having you explain, what does the housing market look like today? It used to be a seller's market. Is that still the same?
Oh, absolutely. It's a seller's market, and it looks like it's going to be for a long, long time. Interest rates have gone up a little bit. I say a little bit. They've almost doubled, but in the big picture, they're still below 5.5%, which is a really good rate. Housing values have gone up drastically, for sure, but we've seen a little bit of leveling off in the last couple of months, and who knows where we're going to go from here. But we anticipate it still to be a seller's market for the foreseeable future.
So even though the prices have gone up on homes, people are still buying?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
There's a lot of reasons for that, and we may get into that a little bit later. But there's basically been a housing shortage in this country for probably the last 10 years, and that was before the pandemic set in. That existed before then. So houses are still selling off the charts. I looked, 8 days on the market yesterday was the average for a home on the market in the Oklahoma City metropolitan area.
All right, Jenny, I want to come to you. I'm going to talk to both you and Valenthia, but we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about your organization and how you help folks with housing.
Thank you. Community Cares Partners is the administrator of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. The first one was passed by Congress in December of 2020, and the second one by Congress through the ARPA program in March of 2021. Oklahoma received a little over $400 million total, and we help renters with rent, and we used to help them with utilities too for multiple months. We can even pay forward a few months, and we've helped so far over 70,000 households across the state of Oklahoma, and we will spend all of our money by the end of the year.
So the money's going fast, and we are going to come back and talk to you about that. Valenthia, would you do the same to explain what your organization does?
Sure. As I mentioned, we do a number of things at OFA, and there are about 4 different program categories that we focus on. The first of them is rental assistance. Most people recognize us for the Section 8 or Housing Choice Voucher Program. We provide rental assistance to about 20,000 Oklahomans every month. The second program that we look at is how can we help to spur development of affordable housing. As Barry mentioned, we've had a housing shortage in the country for quite some time, so Oklahoma does not escape that. Part of the issue that we have is that there just aren't enough affordable housing units available for people to choose from. So even though we might be offering, for example, housing choice vouchers, there's a limitation to where they can go with those vouchers. There just aren't enough opportunities. So we try to help with that by providing some financing opportunities to for-profit and not-for-profit developers to encourage the development of affordable housing units.
Jenny, I'd like to come back to you, because it seems the opposite. In your case, the money you have what, 90 million left, and it's going to be gone by December, end of the year.
Yes. So the need was just so great. And with renters, it's a much quicker, way too quick of a process to get them out. You can be out in 5 days, the way that laws are in Oklahoma. It's unlike with a mortgage, you've got the foreclosure and notices and everything like that.
Yes.
That are much
a little more complex.
Yes.
When you have a delinquent mortgage. And so the negotiations that we have to do with mortgage loan servicers in terms of determining the delinquent amount, what we can contribute to that, and how we can help an individual homeowner is a little more complex than paying the rent, for example. So it takes a little longer to process those cases and to figure out what we can do. The other issue that we have in Oklahoma in relationship to mortgage relief is that when the funds were released in December, you'll remember that that was long after the moratorium on foreclosures, for example, had been lifted. And so many Oklahomans have already gone through what is called a loan modification process, or their forbearance had already ended prior to our money being released in Oklahoma. So a lot of the work that we're now doing is a little bit of backtracking, right? Where were you in your forbearance? What happened? What was the loan modification? How can we still assist you with the funds that we have? We allow for up to $35,000 per household.
So Barry, you know this industry inside and out. Explain to all of us what happens if someone falls behind either in a mortgage payment or rental, what the process is.
Well, they're completely different, whether it's mortgage or rental. And the rental side of it, it's really up to the landlord. If the landlord has to issue a 5-day notice to quit, and if the demanding the payments be brought current, if the tenant refuses to do so, at that point in time, the landlord can go file at the courthouse. In Oklahoma County, in all honesty, if I filed an eviction notification today, I may have a court date next Thursday.
I thought it took 30 days to evict someone.
It depends on, it really depends on the docket, the FED dockets that are set by the courthouse. It's just a timing thing, in all honesty. It's very possible that I could file today and have a docket set for my hearing set for next Thursday or whatever. And it kind of depends on my guess is it kind of depends on the numbers that they have down there. And they're obviously a lot higher now than they used to be. But, and then once I go to court, if I get my judgment, which if it's simply a case over the tenant being behind in their rent, then I'm going to get a judgment. If I want to pursue it, if I don't want to work it out with Community Cares, and they're standing right there outside the doors trying to help and resolve these issues. But if I have a landlord, if I'm representing an owner that doesn't want that, then I don't have to participate in that. I get my judgment and I file a writ of assistance with the sheriff, and they go give them 72 hours to get out of the house.
Now let's talk
mortgages are different. Mortgages are completely different. Mortgage, once you get delinquent, there's basically 2 resolutions to being behind in mortgages. Typically, a foreclosure would run about 9 months, the process, 6 to 9 months, depending on service and getting good service on people and what have you. And I'm not a lawyer, so this could be a little bit.
And of course, we have to remember that we're not in a typical environment because the pandemic changed much of that for the foreclosure process. Many people were delinquent, but they were in a moratorium, so the lender could not proceed. And so that changed a lot of that, what we know of as being normal. I think the most important thing for our neighbors to understand is that if you are delinquent and your delinquency is related to a COVID financial hardship, there are some options for you. Not only options that we provide, but your mortgage loan servicer has some unique options for you that may not have been available to you a year ago. So the first thing is that if you are delinquent, you need to reach out to your servicer.
It's
very
best to check and not,
because most people don't do that. They're afraid.
You want to bury your head in the sand.
Absolutely. This is their home. This is where they live with their families. They are frightened. They don't want to make that call. We need you to make that call so that the servicer is aware that you have had a COVID-related financial hardship. That tricks, if you will, the switch for a number of workout options that they now have to work with you that they would not have otherwise. And so you definitely need to be taking advantage of those options that the servicer has for you.
Jenny, I do want to ask you, what happens when the 90 million is gone at the end of the year?
I'll start with the good news. The good news is that we have money set aside for housing stability services, and we're going to be starting some new innovative programs that will hopefully go further upstream so we can work more on eviction diversion and prevention and not get to that point of getting ready to fall off the cliff. That includes that we're opening up a landlord tenant resource center here in Oklahoma County. There is one already in Tulsa County, and we want to get those across the state at some point in the world. And the other thing we're doing is funding Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma with money to start a universal representation program. It has been called in other states right to counsel, but we don't have a statutory right to it. So this gives, like you think about the Sixth Amendment, you have the right to counsel if you are convicted of a crime. Well, this gives you the opportunity to have counsel in civil matters. So those things will all help. And we've got several other programs, and we work with 35 organizations across the state in helping with housing stability. Because it's not just not paying your rent. It's
Right.
understanding your lease. It's do you have a job? It's your health. There's so many factors to take more of a holistic approach. But as far as the immediate problem, Oklahoma County is now one of the top in the nation in the eviction rate and eviction numbers. We have dockets every day in Oklahoma County. Some dockets are 300 people. They just keep adding to the docket. Some dockets will be 60, some will be 300. There are continuances. It's a mess. And then another thing we're really trying to do is find better solutions for landlords and tenants, because as it is, it's messy, it's chaotic. We all pay when people are unhoused, and we all pay dearly. And if we could help it out. So there will be, and we have been pointing to our housing stability partners, but there is going to be a surge of evictions, I guarantee you. And I'm really heartbroken to have to say that.
We're running out of time, but I do want to give Barry the last word. You see this overall view. You see it from the happy side of people buying a home. You see it from the side of people having to sell their home because they can no longer afford it. What advice would you give people who are maybe in that the latter situation? They're looking at having to sell their home because they can't afford it.
Well, one of the things that is the market has really worked in the last couple of years on their behalf in terms of the rising values. So, and that's what, unfortunately, I think this is a good question. I think that those people need to understand that given the market increases we've seen over the last 2 years, they may not be in as bad a shape as they think they are. They need to call a professional to ascertain the value of their home at that point in time. I think they would be amazed because, we have seen an increase of 10 or 15% in the last, certainly in the last year and in the last 2 years, and so that goes a long way to paying off in full the debt, the amount of the mortgage balance plus the money that's in arrears for lack of payments. Yeah. So we've seen a very low foreclosure rate in the last couple of years, and that's one of the reasons why, because people's values have increased enough to cover their losses.
Again, so many more questions to ask. We'll have to have all of you back. I'd like to thank you all for your time, and we'll have more information about these programs that you just heard about on the OETA website at oeta.tv. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.